So, this is my first ever video, so it's going to be a little bit weird. Hello everyone, my name is Dylan. I am not a guitar teacher. I am not some music theory professional. I'm just an average guitar player. I've been playing for about 10 years, and I'm a self-taught guitarist, right? So I never really took formal lessons. I just learned everything from YouTube. The reason that I'm making this video is because, like I said, I've never made a video before, but I kind of wanted to look back on the 10 years that I've been playing and actually really give a piece of advice to people who are in that like very early intermediate stage. So a lot of you have probably heard of the intermediate plateau, which is, I think when you describe the normal guitar journey, or at least from what I hear about with other people I talk to and things that I read online, when you're at the beginning of your journey, it's tough for the first month. It's pretty difficult to, be able to figure out how to play chords and make different things and, synchronize with your hand and stuff. But once you sort of get the basics down, you learn your open chords, you really start to progress. At least that's how it happened with me. I felt like soloing or lead guitar was something that you really had to work up to. Like, you start with the basics, right? You start with playing rhythm guitar, you start with learning how to strum some chords and stuff, and then you can advance to soloing. And I think most people, where they start is this like A minor pentatonic, right? In the first position, I think it's called, right, on the 5th fret. And I guess that's what I did, and it was okay, right? I learned how to play the pentatonic scale, and it was something that I practiced like a really long time, but I never knew what I was doing. I just knew that this was a scale, and like I said, I don't really have any understanding of theory, or at least I didn't. I've, gotten it better. So what I want to share with you today is a bit about the caged system, but not from a very theoretical standpoint. I want to share this with you as an, intermediate guitar player, and how it's really benefited me as someone who still hasn't mastered the system, who is still learning it, but it has already, in the past couple months that I've like really been diving into it, that it's made like a transformational difference in my guitar playing and my understanding of the instrument. It's basically, after I learned all of the basics, right? My open chords, how to play rhythm comfortably, how to play some basic bar chords. It's what I wish that I would have started learning. And I think that it would make a big transformation in where I'm playing now versus where I was then. And if anybody's in that like intermediate sort of tipping point, and you're kind of learning on your own and you're doing self-study, or learning through a lot of YouTube videos and stuff, that's what I would recommend really diving into. This is just my personal opinion. I've kind of, since I discovered it, it's made a lot of sense to me. And so I want to share a little bit with it for you, again, as like a non-pro, non-expert guitar player who just wants to help people, I guess, get better. So what is the caged system, right? It's an acronym. It's CAGED, caged. And why is it called that? So right, we have these open chords, C, A, G, E, D, all major. And the theory behind caged, or how it works, is that these chord shapes are all movable up and down the neck, like entirely. Now that's something you might have figured out from yourself if you know how to play your bar chords, right? When you play an F, like an F major, this is just an E major chord, right? Moved up 1 fret. So your finger acts like a capo, And then you know that the F note right here, right? E, F, that's sort of what determines that it's an E major chord or an F major chord, right? The root note is here on the 6th string. And that's something that, I don't know, you probably figured out through playing, right? If you move this shape, which is, we'll call it an E major shape or an E shape because it's like, it looks like that E major chord, and we move it to the 5th fret, now it's A major. And with every single one of these shapes, right, with our E, with our C, with our A, with our D, with our G, we can move these up the neck and it's going to be a major chord in the exact same shape. So I think most people are familiar with that in the E shape, right? This major bar chord, I don't know, the 6th fret major bar chord. And then they're familiar with it on the 5th string major bar chord, this A shape, right? Because this is like an A. You take, a lot of times people just bar this, right? If you move this up and you add a bar, it works the same. So now instead of an A, it's a D, because this 5th fret on the A is a D note. So we can do A. Now, why does this matter, right? Sure, you can take shapes and you can move them up and down the neck. And this is what, I guess I sort of knew that. And I was like, yeah, okay, I get it. You can sort of move things throughout the neck. The piece of information that like blew this away from me is that every single shape has like a corresponding major scale pattern underneath it. Let me back up one second. So we talked about having our major shapes, right? I'm going to use D as an example, right? So if we take this C chord, so the key of D I'm going to take as an example. If we take this C chord and I want to make it a D chord, but I want to use this C shape. Okay, I'm going to change my fingering a little bit, but now I have a D chord in this C shape, right? I've got the 3, and then my finger here is barring, my index finger is barring the 3rd and the 1st string, and now I have a D chord, even though it's in that C shape. Now CAGED, it's an acronym, C-A-G-E-D. It's spelled like that because there's a pattern of how these major chords arrange themselves across the neck. So if I want to play a D chord all throughout the neck, I can play my standard open D. Then I can play a D here, which is the C shape. And I know that it's a D, right? Because I have my root note is on the 5th fret on the A string. That's a D note. The next C, A, so now I have an A shape. We're staying in the key of D. These are all D chords. Is right here. And you probably know this one because it's just that major bar chord on the 5th string. Okay. But C, A, G, now the G connects. Now this one, it's hard to make a G chord, and you don't actually make it all that much, but you can see it sort of looks like this. And then that connects to C-A-G-E-D. Now C-A-G-E, so I'm making my E-shaped bar chord. And then D. So how does that connect? Where's the D? It's right here. Now the thing that is so amazing, or I don't know, mind-blowing for me, is that every single shape has a major scale associated to it, right? Or a pentatonic scale associated to it. I mean, start there, that's the easiest place. And they all connect within each other. And the thing that's really, really cool about Caged is it gives you like a map to be able to apply this, to basically apply this knowledge to the fretboard so that you have like a fundamental understanding, because this pattern is always the same. It's always C, A, G, E, D. Even if you start the key of B, which, who knows? Okay, I'm gonna start, because the first one is right here on the 2nd fret. That's an A shape. Okay, now I can do the same thing with the G. And if you see, this G shape connects to the A shape. So the A shape is right here. And then I bar that part with my index finger, G, and now we know it's a B chord. I've got my B note here on the 7th fret, and now that G connects to the E. I've got another B chord, right? And then I have, on the 4th fret, I have another B note, right? And that is where my D chord then starts. So, and then C. And it just repeats and it repeats. So the reason that this is so amazing is because I never was able to understand where I'm going, right? I was always thinking in shapes of, okay, position 1, right? Pentatonic position 1, pentatonic position 2, pentatonic position 3, not realizing how these shapes connect to each other or what they mean or how I can like use them in different keys, right? So I showed you the shapes that all of those go, but then all of these shapes have a scale that is always the same shape that's associated with it, which also all connect, right? So if we take the key of D, for example, the pentatonic scale that is associated with this shape, the C shape, will always be the same pattern. Great. And then you can do the same thing with the A-shaped D chord. And it doesn't matter what chord it is, right? It's this A shape will always have right? And that connects to the G chord, the G shape. And this is the one that everybody sort of learns right away, right? This. Then there's the E shape. And then finally, the D shape. All right, so, again, getting back to this C shape, I'm just using as an example, again in the key of D, but it doesn't matter what key it is. It's the same movements and everything, no matter where you are. Right, every one of these shapes has the pentatonic scale that's attached to it, but the pentatonic scale just comes from the major scale. It's just 2 notes less, right? A major scale is 7 notes, and this is, a pentatonic is 5. So you really just have to add on 2 notes, and then you know every single major scale as well. So that's a D major scale. And this is also a D major scale. So look, I played that A-shaped D, but it doesn't have to be D. It can be, let's go back to B like we talked about earlier. It's the same exact pattern that I just did. Also within all of these shapes, I didn't even mention, like, is every single triad, right? right? You've got a triad here. So now I have another place to play a D chord, or this coming from the A is another D chord, or the E major, like the E shape. So this is what unlocks all of those things that you should, really start to learn and to get an understanding of. If you learn that and you start to take that, like use this as your framework to where you're going to start soloing, because now you can go up and down the neck with ease once you learn that. And if you learn, it starts to introduce you to music theory. And this is like a really great introduction because it lays everything out visually, and then it starts to make a lot of sense. It's my advice to anybody who's in this sort of like plateau, who doesn't know where to go. Yeah, I hope that that's helpful to you. It's made a huge difference to me. I know that there's some channels on YouTube who sort of talk about this thing, but to me, it always seemed like a really big, complex, overarching thing that was just intimidating to get into. This is my personal recommendation. I mean, obviously, I'm not sponsored or anything. I have no following. This is my first video on YouTube. I've used Pickup Music, which is a really amazing platform for learning. I think it's like $15 a month, but it's really, to me, it's been completely worth it. And they have a 2-week free trial, so I would encourage you to try it out, and then if it doesn't work, like fucking cancel it. But that's been really great for me. It breaks everything down into super understandable, like once a day lessons that I think you can finish in 20 or 30 minutes. It's like seriously leveled up my guitar playing, and I'm crawling my way out of this like intermediate plateau. I'm past the plateau, and now I'm back to making probably as much progress as I was when I first started. Like I said, I've been playing for 10 years, and there comes a point where it's like, okay, you learn another song, and then what, right? You can start to learn more technical stuff. You pick up an electric, or maybe you started with electric, you pick up an acoustic, you start to play around on that. But, to really get going and to get an understanding, I think the Cage system is amazing. So that's what I would recommend. I hope that this was helpful. I probably rambled a bit too much. Like I said, I'm not a pro, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a guitar expert. I just wanted to give some advice. So if it helps, let me know, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. And yeah, happy playing.